Hi there, welcome back to our fourth episode, and we're going to pick up from where we left last time, the 7 churches. Notice at the time when Paul is speaking is at the period of the first church, Ephesus, Revelation chapter 2 verses 1 to 7. This church is notified by their works, labor, and patience, hating the evil ones, Nicolaitans, and testing all upon their truth. However, they have a drawback. They have left the first love. Upon them, our 2 characteristics to match the time of the end are not mentioned. So we move on to the second church, Smyrna, verses 8 to 11. Their works being tribulation and poverty and mediocre Jews. These were persecuted by the pagan Rome in 10 days. That is in verse 10. But does the Bible really mean just 10 days of tribulation? Of course not. We use a Bible principle, day-year rule, in Numbers chapter 14 verse 34 and Ezekiel chapter 4 verse 6. Therefore, 10 days represents 10 years. This was in AD 303 to 313 by Emperor Diocletian. You can read that in the Great Controversy chapter 2. So far, we do not see our 2 characteristics yet. On we go to the next church, the third church, Pergamos, verses 12 to 17. These lived where Satan's seat was. This means in this period the devil worked in the very special manner. During this period, the doctrine of Christ was being corrupted, the mystery of iniquity was working, and Satan was laying the very foundation of that most stupendous system of wickedness, the papacy. Here was the falling away foretold by Paul in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. You can read that from the book Daniel and Revelation, page 355, paragraph 1. From this excerpt, we can start seeing the clues of what we are looking for. This church had a Balaam, Numbers chapter 22 to 25 and chapter 31 verse 13 to 16. What is the main character of Balaam? He apostatized from the law of God. Balaam was once a prophet of God, but he had apostatized and given himself up to covetousness. When the messengers announced their errand, he well knew that it was his duty to refuse the rewards of Balak and dismiss the ambassadors. But he ventured to dally with temptation and urged the messengers to tarry that night, declaring that he could give no answer till he had asked counsel of the Lord. The works of Balaam were apostasy and creating stumbling blocks for God's people to be cast. Chapter 3 of the Great Controversy, the Apostasy, has to come to our attention. Please go read that chapter. One last thing. This church was in the period of AD 323 to 538 AD. We cannot talk about this time period without mentioning Constantine, who was a pagan converted, in quotes, into Christianity. Apostasy had begun sinking deep its roots. Truth mixed with error, deception. We now have our first clue. The time of the end will not have been preached until after 538, until a falling away had come. But there's yet one clue remaining to fully establish when the day of Christ was to come.